They came from the stars like gods. The Xerelians had conquered planet after planet across the Orion Arm without losing a single battle. Their technology was centuries ahead of any known species. Their warships, sleek, black monsters as large as cities, floated into orbit, and resistance would vanish. No demands, no peace talks, no mercy. If your planet showed strength, they wiped it clean. If you surrendered, they enslaved you. Humanity had watched it all unfold on the outer colonies. First it was Kavos III, a mining planet. Then Urila, then the twin moons of Solari. Every time, the messages stopped. Every time, the same result. Nothing left. Earth's government did what it always did, argued. Politicians talked about diplomacy. Some hoped the Xerelians would ignore humans if they just stayed quiet. But by the time the 7th colony fell, it was too late. They were coming for Earth. Except Earth had a secret. One warship. One monster hidden from public knowledge. A relic of a dark program called Project Leviathan. It wasn't beautiful or elegant like the Xerelian cruisers. It was a brutal, angular giant, over-engineered and overarmed, built not to intimidate, but to kill. Its name was Vindicator. Its captain was Commander Elias Rourke, a man known more for disobedience than for heroism. Disgraced, forgotten, until now. He sat alone in the command chair, watching the stars stretch like threads in the void, as the Vindicator glided silently past Pluto's orbit. Around him, his crew moved like ghosts, veterans, outcasts, misfits, no press, no medals, just one mission. Stop the invincible. "Sir," said Lieutenant Saren Vale, her voice cold, clipped, professional. "Xerelian flagship sighted. 25 million kilometers out. Closing." Rourke didn't answer right away. He stared at the display, at the thing that had swallowed worlds. The Jal Turak. Just one of their ships, but larger than anything human minds had dared to dream of. It shimmered in the dark like obsidian, its surface pulsing with light like it was alive. "Bring us out of stealth," Rourke said finally. The crew looked up. "Sir, we'll be exposed." "They need to know," he said, "that this one doesn't roll over." Outside, the Vindicator powered up, its hull lit with red streaks as weapon arrays came online. Power surged through its core, awakening old systems, some of which had never been tested outside simulations. Inside the Xerelian ship, alarms went off. A ship was decloaking nearby, small by their standards, primitive in design, but moving directly toward them. Commander Jarek of the Jal Turak didn't flinch. He didn't need to. There had never been a need to. No species had ever launched a direct attack. "Target it," he ordered lazily. "Eliminate." A sphere of plasma the size of a house blasted from the Jal Turak's main gun. It traveled at a fraction of light speed, and when it hit, it should have shattered any human ship. But the Vindicator didn't break. Its shields flared bright and held. The bridge shook, lights flickering, but the hull remained intact. "They're scanning us," Saren said. "They're confused." Rourke smiled. "Good." He turned to the weapons officer. "Fire." The Vindicator unleashed everything. Missiles with smart warheads spiraled out in all directions. Railguns fired slugs at such velocity they glowed like comets. A beam of concentrated ion energy cut across space, lancing the Jal Turak's forward array. For the first time in their campaign of destruction, the Xerelians saw something bleed. On the Jal Turak, chaos erupted. "Shields failing," a technician screamed in their native tongue. "They're using adaptive targeting. How?" Jarek stood in disbelief. "Impossible. They're humans." "Yes, sir," the tech replied, trembling. "And they just disabled our targeting grid." Back on the Vindicator, Rourke leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen. That was your first mistake, he muttered, thinking we'd go down easy. He stood, voice rising. Get ready. We're not stopping till they know what humanity really is. No longer the prey, no longer afraid. Now, they were the storm. Silence didn't exist in space, but inside the Vindicator, it felt like the entire crew held their breath as the Jal Turak reeled from the surprise attack. Direct hits on their forward array, communications bay, and external shield nodes, Lieutenant Sarenvale reported, her voice sharp but laced with awe. They're wounded, sir. Bleeding power. Commander Rourke didn't blink. Don't let up. They're still alive. The Vindicator pivoted hard, the artificial gravity groaning as inertia dampeners struggled to adjust. Another volley of railgun slugs screamed across space, trailing streaks of white-blue light. Missiles split off, dodging plasma bursts from the alien ship as they homed in on vulnerable subsystems. On the Zarelian bridge, Commander Jarek clutched the edge of his command platform, his clawed hands trembling. Not from fear, but rage. Never had a species landed a meaningful hit on a Zarelian vessel. Never. How is this possible? He snarled. We've studied their technology for years. They're decades behind us. Unknown modifications, his lieutenant hissed. This vessel, it's not standard human design. They've hidden it from all known records. Jarek's voice dropped to a growl. Then destroy it. I want its wreckage studied and every name aboard remembered. The Jal Turak's belly opened like a beast, unhinging its jaw, revealing a rotating cannon the size of a city block. From within, energy began to gather. Crimson, pulsing, unstable. Back on the Vindicator, sensors screamed warnings. Energy surge, shouted Chief Engineer Ramirez from below deck, patched in via comms. Bigger than anything we've seen. If that hits us, it's over. Rourke stood calmly. What's our window? 17 seconds, maybe less. Then we take the shot first. He turned to Saren. Fire the singularity lance. The room froze. Sir, that system? I know it's untested. I know we only got one damn shot. Fire it. Saren hesitated, then slammed her palm onto the activation panel. Deep in the core of the Vindicator, coils hummed with ancient energy. Developed under black-budget projects no one dared speak of, the Singularity Lance wasn't a beam or a missile. It was an artificial micro-black hole, stabilized for launch and aimed with quantum precision. A high-pitched whine echoed through the hull as the ship trembled. Then the weapon fired. A ripple distorted space between the two ships, like a smudge across reality itself. The black sphere darted forward, silent, elegant, unstoppable. The Jal Turak's cannon had just begun to unleash its own beam when the sphere punched through its forward armor. For one horrifying moment, the beam bent toward the singularity, then collapsed inward. The explosion wasn't bright. It was quiet, like the universe holding its breath. The front of the Jal Turak folded in on itself, crumpling as the miniature black hole devoured metal, energy, and lives with the quiet hunger of a god. Then it collapsed, gone as fast as it came, leaving behind nothing but wreckage and silence. On the Vindicator, alarms cut out. The rumble faded. The bridge remained still for a heartbeat. 2, 3. Then the crew erupted into cheers. Ramirez shouted triumphantly over comms. Saren leaned forward, blinking in disbelief. Even the navigation AI, cold and dispassionate, emitted a ping of completion. Holy hell, murmured Weapons Officer Jenkins. Did we just do that? Rourke didn't smile. His face was still stone. One down. He knew better than to celebrate. The Zarelians were never alone. Sir, Saren said, voice sobering. We've got movement. 6 more ships inbound. Smaller than Jal Turak, but fast. Looks like strike cruisers. How long until they get here? 4 minutes, maybe less. Damn. Rourke stood. Status on Vindicator? Ramir's voice came through again, strained. That shot fried half the systems near the Lance array. We're down to 80% shields, propulsion at 75. We can still move, but not like before. Understood. Rourke tapped his command terminal, eyes narrowing. Prepare Phase 2. Phase 2. The part no one ever wanted to use. In the depths of the Vindicator, hatches hissed open, 4 smaller vessels, stealth fighters with reverse-engineered alien tech, launched from the bay. Piloted by the most reckless pilots in the fleet, these ships weren't meant to win. They were meant to distract, to bleed, to stall. Black Arrows deployed, Saren confirmed. They know what they're doing. Rourke watched them disappear into the dark, 4 arrows against a hurricane. They always did. The Black Arrows sped toward the incoming Zarelian cruisers, weaving through debris and jamming signals as they went. One pilot, Jack's Deadeye Marlowe, patched in briefly. Captain, his voice said, calm even now. If I don't make it, you'll make it, Rourke snapped. Jax chuckled. Sure I will. But if I don't, make them bleed, yeah? Then silence. The Vindicator turned slowly, putting its bulk between Earth's outer moons and the incoming enemy. On every human channel across the system, civilian and military alike, images of the lone human warship standing its ground broadcasted like wildfire. Families on Earth watched. Soldiers across colonies watched. And for the first time in decades, they believed. Inside the lead Zarelian cruiser, the new commander, Captain Kithis, studied the wreckage of the Jal Turak. This is not war, he said slowly. This is insult. A lower species dares wound us. An aide hissed a question. Shall we contact High Command? Kithis shook his head. Number, they'll mock us for needing help. We end this now. Begin fleet bombardment pattern Theta. The strike cruisers opened fire. Twin lances of light streamed toward the Vindicator. Plasma shells and ion missiles flooded space. One of the Black Arrows twisted through the barrage, returning fire before a beam sliced through its cockpit. The ship spun out and exploded silently. Jax's voice never came back. Inside the Vindicator, damage reports flowed like water. Sections of the outer hull ruptured. Automated systems fought to keep life support online. We're holding, Saren said, though her voice cracked. For now. We don't need forever, Rourke replied. Just long enough. Long enough for what? The AI voice chimed in. Energy spike detected near Saturn's rings. Human vessel arriving via quantum fold. Signature matches Earth Fleet Registry. UES ironclad. Saren turned with wide eyes. We've got backup? The screen lit up. From the dark curve of Saturn, another warship blinked into existence. The ironclad, older than the Vindicator but still massive, emerged with weapons hot. A second voice chimed in through comms. Commander Rourke, Admiral Chen, ironclad, you started the party without us? Had to, Rourke said dryly. Glad you showed up. Chen's voice turned serious. We brought the cavalry. Moments later, 5 more human ships appeared. Frigates, retrofitted destroyers, even an old orbital cannon platform dragged into battle by tugs. Not elegant, not flashy, but human. All of them turned toward the Zarelian cruisers. For the first time, the numbers weren't one-sided. The enemy hesitated. They weren't used to hesitation. Rourke stood tall, blood on his cheek from a ceiling panel that had broken loose. Broadcast this on all open channels. He nodded to Saren. She opened the communications. This is Commander Elias Rourke of the UES Vindicator. You came to take Earth. You thought we'd run, like the others. His voice sharpened, biting. But we're not like the others. We're not prey. We're not afraid. And we're not alone anymore. On 1,000 screens, across 1,000 ships, across every moon and outpost still holding out, humans watched one man stand against the monsters that tore across the stars. "You wanted Earth?" Rourke said. "Then come and take it." The first Zarelian cruiser didn't die easy. Even with the Vindicator and Ironclad firing in sync, even with plasma streaming across space and railgun slugs chewing through its hull, the enemy ship fought like a cornered animal. Its shields flared a sickly green, absorbing blast after blast, while its counterfire scorched the void. It clipped one of the human frigates, tearing its engines apart in a blinding burst. "Frigate Doyle down," Saren said, her voice strained, watching the explosion unfold across the tactical display. "No life signs. It's gone." Commander Rourke didn't flinch, but something in his eyes darkened. "Log the names. Every last one." The bridge lights flickered. More damage. Somewhere beneath the command deck, automated fire suppression hissed to life. A low rumble vibrated through the floor as the Ironclad launched a barrage of kinetic lances. "They're breaking formation," Jenkins called from weapons. "We've cracked their lead cruiser. Its command signals are scattered." "Good," Rourke growled. "Push in. No survivors." He wasn't fighting for some grand Federation ideal, not for medals, not even revenge. He was fighting because Earth needed to remember what it meant to stand, to bleed and bite back. Captain Kithis of the Zarelian fleet watched his screens with narrowing eyes. In all the centuries of their dominance, only one species had ever resisted so violently. The Kroganth, long ago. But even they surrendered after a week of orbital strikes. Humans were different. They didn't beg. They didn't run. They fought like animals with nothing left, and worse, they were learning. "Sir," his tactical officer said, antennae twitching nervously. "They've shifted tactics, coordinated formations. They're jamming our tactical frequencies now." Kithis slammed a clawed hand onto the console. "Imitate them. Adapt. Use their own chaos against them." The Zarelians weren't used to adapting. Their ships were built for domination, not defense. Their command relied on intimidation, not innovation. But the humans didn't play by those rules. Not anymore. In the engine bay of the Vindicator, Chief Engineer Ramirez crawled through a mess of sparking wires and venting coolant. He didn't have time to call a team. Didn't need one. He just needed 30 more seconds. The Singularity shot earlier had fried half their backup systems, and if he didn't bypass the fusion capacitor now, they'd lose propulsion. "Come on, you metal bitch," he muttered, fingers moving fast. Behind him, a warning light blinked red. Coolant pressure exceeding safe limits. I see it," he hissed. "One more seal, one more fuse." Then a snap hiss as the final connection locked in. The room groaned, then steadied. "Bridge, this is Ramirez," he said through gritted teeth. "Engines are green, barely. Don't ask for miracles." Rourke's voice came back instantly. "Wouldn't dream of it. Just hold her together, Chief." "I always do." Elsewhere on the Vindicator, in the med bay, Dr. Elena Kaur stitched a man's leg without anesthetic. The wound was deep, shrapnel embedded in muscle, and the patient bit down on a strap of leather to stop screaming. "You're lucky," she said quietly, eyes not leaving her work. "Another inch and your femoral artery would have sprayed this room red." He grunted in pain. "I said lucky, not painless," she added. All around her, nurses and assistants moved like ghosts, dozens injured. No time for rest. Just blood, gauze, pain, and more pain. Because war didn't pause for recovery. And neither could they. Out in space, the tide began to turn. The Vindicator moved like a monster, limping but unyielding. Beside it, the ironclad and the surviving destroyers tore into the remaining Zarelian cruisers. One enemy ship exploded under concentrated fire, the blast illuminating the shattered hull of the wrecked cruiser like a dying sun. "3 down," Saren said, barely believing it. "3!" But Jenkins' face had gone pale. "Missile barrage incoming. Zarelian reinforcements just arrived." "Where the hell from?" Rourke barked. "They must have been cloaked behind Europa's shadow. Stealth class, 2 heavy corvettes, and another capital-class ship." "Status on fleet?" "The ironclad's taken heavy hits. Frigate Ravenscar just lost comms. Destroyer Caspian is down to 30%. Rourke stared at the new warship on the screen. Sleek, black, sleek like a dagger in the dark. Not another Jal Turak, but worse. This was the Zarelian Wraith class, their answer to every resistance, built not just for war, but for mass erasure. "Target the Wraith," Rourke ordered. "We finish this now." Jenkins shook his head. "Sir, we don't have the firepower. Not anymore." Saren stepped closer. "But we might have something else." Rourke raised an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" She glanced at the nav AI. "The Vindicator still has jump capability, doesn't it?" "Emergency quantum jump, yeah," he said slowly. "Short range only, risky. Can fry the core if we're not aligned right. But if we jumped inside the Wraith's shield radius?" The room went quiet. "That's insane," Jenkins muttered. "We'd be torn apart." "Not if we time it right," Saren replied. "We jump in close enough that their tracking systems can't react. We unload everything we've got point blank. The Wraith's defenses are made for long range." Rourke considered it. It was suicide, but it was also the only shot they had. And humanity had always made its mark through madness. The Wraith-class ship loomed ahead, unbothered by the chaos. It moved like it had already won, like it always won. Kithis watched from within, already drafting the report to High Command. He'd record the initial failure of the Jal Turak as a tactical anomaly, the resistance by the humans, expected but ultimately futile. Then something pinged on their sensors. Human ship, jumping, but not away. Toward us? Kithis stood. "What are they?" And then the Vindicator tore into real space inside the Wraith's shield envelope. It was close enough that Rourke could see the alien hull through the bridge viewports. The Zarelian ship was massive, smooth like obsidian glass. But now it looked vulnerable. "Now!" he roared. Jenkins didn't hesitate. Everything they had left fired at once. Cluster torpedoes drilled into the Wraith's hull, splitting open like flower petals of flame. Rail slugs dug into its core. The final barrage of ion beams overloaded its reactors. From the medbay to engineering, from the bridge to the last hangar bay, the Vindicator groaned and screamed under the recoil. The Wraith didn't explode right away. It cracked, lines of light breaking through its surface, splitting it open like an egg. Then it detonated in total silence, consumed by fire and vacuum. The Vindicator was hurled backward, shields buckling, power flickering. But it held. Against every expectation, against every law of war and probability, it held. 20 minutes later, the field was still. The enemy ships gone, the Zarelians defeated for the first time in their history. The price had been unbearable. Only 2 human ships remained operational, hundreds dead, thousands wounded. But Earth was safe. Rourke sat in his command chair, blood drying on his temple, eyes staring at the stars. Saren approached quietly. "They're retreating. No more pings, no signs of tracking." He nodded slowly. "Good." She glanced at the screen. "We'll be in history books, you know. You especially." He snorted. "Let them write what they want. We didn't do this for stories." "No," she said. "We did it because no one else would." In the distance, the shattered rings of Saturn glittered. Humanity had sent one ship, one relic of a forgotten war, and it had stood. The stars didn't care about victory. They shone the same over wreckage as they did over triumph. 2 days after the battle near Saturn, the Vindicator floated in silence, patched and limping back toward Earth orbit. Its hull was scorched black in long streaks, parts of its outer frame missing entirely. Only half the lights on the bridge worked. A soft flicker of emergency orange cast long shadows on the walls. Commander Rourke stood alone, watching Earth grow larger on the central screen. Below him, a rising sea of blue and green. His home, his species, unaware, mostly, of how close they'd come to extinction. Saren Vale entered quietly behind him. She moved slower now. Her ribs were still healing from when an impact threw her against a bulkhead. But she hadn't stopped working since the fight. "You should rest," she said gently. "Medbay cleared out half its beds for the new arrivals. You're overdue." Rourke didn't look at her. "I don't rest. Not yet." Saren stepped beside him, arms folded. "Then at least eat. You've had nothing since the black arrows fell." He turned at that, face unreadable. "They bought us the time we needed. We'll honor them properly, after the debrief." There was a long silence. Finally, Saren asked, "Do you think this is it? The end?" "No," Rourke replied. "It's just the beginning." On the surface of Earth, panic met celebration. News feeds everywhere ran the same headline: "Human warship destroys Zarelian fleet." Across the unified Earth cities, people wept and cheered. Holograms replayed Vindicator's final attack in glorious, filtered detail. Clean, bloodless, with none of the terror or loss. Governments broadcast statements of unity. Recruitment booths overflowed. Children waved flags. Old men lifted glasses. But beneath that joy, fear crawled. Because if the Zarelians could be hurt, they could also get angry. Inside the Global Security Council, high above the megacity of New Geneva, 12 men and women in perfect suits stared at each other over polished steel desks. "Commander Rourke went off mission," said Councillor Danzel, voice cold. "His orders were to defend the Sol perimeter, not to engage directly." "He saved Earth," replied Councillor Thandi Mbatha, her eyes sharp. "And for once we proved that we aren't the galaxy's whipping post." "Temporary," Danzel said. "We've awoken a beast, and we don't know how many more they can send." General Misha Yoon leaned forward. "The Vindicator was our last deep-segment warship. If they send a full armada, we can't match that." Councillor Argian tapped the desk. "Unless we finish Project Aegis." The room went still. Mbatha frowned. "Project Aegis was shelved, unstable, experimental, but designed specifically to counter Zarelian tactics," Arjun interrupted. "We've seen it. Their arrogance is their flaw. Aegis was built to exploit that." Yoon looked to the ceiling, then muttered, "God help us all." Back on the Vindicator, the dead were being prepared for release. It was a quiet ceremony. The survivors lined up in the lower hangar, dressed in their best surviving uniforms. The bodies, wrapped in polished carbon weave caskets, were slid into the launch chutes one by one. Each coffin bore a name: Jax Deadeye Marlowe, Lieutenant Tessa Hound, Navigator Elric Shaw, over 50 names, too many for one deck. Rourke spoke from a simple platform. They were soldiers, yes, but more than that. They were the spark. They proved that when pushed, we don't break. We burn. He paused. And the universe has now seen what it looks like when humanity burns back. With the press of a button, the caskets launched. Slow, dignified, into the dark. One by one they vanished into the vacuum, drifting toward the stars they died under. Not a word was said afterward. Just silence. In deep space, far beyond the edge of the Sol system, The Zerelian High Command convened inside the living chamber of the emissary throne. The room wasn't built of metal, but grown. Pulsing veins of purple and silver ran along its walls. The Zerelians didn't build with steel. They bred their technology. Everything in their warships was alive. At the center of the throne chamber sat High Warlord Kazith, a being taller than any human, draped in layered exoskin that gleamed like wet obsidian. Before him knelt Kithis, still bruised, his eyes low. "You failed," Kazith hissed. "You let our kin die. Our cruiser, our Wraith class, destroyed by primitives." Kithis flinched. "They have evolved, my lord. Hidden capabilities. They possess weapons that mimic singularity compression. It was—" "You were warned," Kazith interrupted. "They are not like the others. Not anymore." The emissary's advisors spoke through whispers, their tongues clicking and curling like insects. "They have awakened what should not have awakened. They broke the legacy of the Jal Turak. They cannot be allowed to rise." Kazith's eyes narrowed. "Then we will strike, and this time not with arrogance." 1 week later, Rourke stood inside the Federation Assembly Chamber on Earth, wearing a fresh uniform that still didn't feel right. He'd shaved, brushed his hair, cleaned the blood out of his nails. But inside, nothing had changed. He stood before hundreds of delegates, streamed across thousands of systems. Holos showed his face everywhere. He hated it. Counselor Mbatha introduced him. This man stood against the storm, not with a fleet, not with permission, but with resolve. And because of that, humanity stands free. For now. The applause was thunderous, but Rourke didn't smile. He stepped to the podium and said, "We didn't win." A hush fell. "We survived, barely. The Zerelians lost a few ships, yes, but they'll come back. And next time they'll bring more." Murmurs filled the hall. Rourke raised a hand. This wasn't a victory. It was a warning shot, one they didn't expect. But we won't get that surprise again. If we don't prepare, if we don't unite, not just Earth, but all humans, all colonies, then next time we'll fall. He let the silence drag. And this time, there won't be anything left to crawl back from. That night, in a private hangar beneath New Geneva, Rourke was taken to a hidden chamber. A dark room. Cold. Inside, on a raised platform, rested a ship. Not like the Vindicator, smaller, sleeker, sleek like death. "This," said Admiral Chen, who had flown in personally, "is Aegis I, the first of its kind." Rourke circled the ship slowly. No visible weapons. They're internalized. No crew pods. It doesn't need many. Rourke looked at him. "You want me to fly it?" "We want you to lead the squadron." Saren Vale stepped out from behind the ship. "Already signed up," she said with a slight smile. Rourke blinked. Someone's got to keep you alive." He shook his head slowly. "So this is it." Chen nodded. "The war's not over. It's just changing." And as Rourke looked up at the ship, black as a void, sharp as a blade, he understood. The Zerelians had seen humanity as soft, breakable. But now they would see what humans looked like when they fought not for victory, but for survival. And survival made monsters of them all. The stars above Mars were quieter than those around Earth. Maybe it was the distance. Maybe it was psychological. But for Commander Elias Rourke, the silence felt heavy. Heavy like a storm, brewing just beyond the horizon. He stood on the outer deck of Aegis Station, orbiting the red planet like a predator waiting to pounce. Below him, Mars glowed like a scarred ember, dotted with abandoned colonies, half-finished mining grids, and underground labs too dangerous to place on Earth. This place didn't appear in official records. Not anymore. "Aegis Squadron is ready," said Saren Vale, stepping beside him. Her uniform bore no insignia now, just the black and silver of Project Aegis. Unofficial, unsanctioned, pure shadow warfare. 5 ships total? Rourke asked. 6, she corrected. One of the prototypes passed core stabilization yesterday. Call sign Phantom 6. He nodded. Still no word from command? Nope, but they know. They always know. That was the thing about shadow wars. Officially, they didn't exist. So if Aegis 1 exploded in deep space, or its pilots were captured, there would be no rescue, no funeral, no names on any walls. Just silence. In the dark bay of Hangar 13, the Aegis fighters gleamed like obsidian daggers. Smaller than the Vindicator's old crafts, but 10 times more advanced. Each one had a quantum folding core, a neural link cockpit, and adaptive armor that shifted like skin in response to damage. They weren't built to survive long engagements. They were built to end fights before they began. As Rourke entered his ship, Phantom 1, the cockpit hissed closed. Lights blinked on in perfect sequence. The ship's AI came online, a soft female voice with no emotion. Neural sync initializing. Stand by, Commander Rourke. The link hit his spine like cold electricity. His vision doubled, then focused. Suddenly he could feel the ship, its balance, its sensors, even its tiny vibrations. It wasn't flying a ship. It was becoming it. Squadron, check in, he said aloud, though he didn't need to. The neural net let them all feel each other's presence now. Phantom 2, green, Saren responded. 3 ready. 4, locked in. 5 and 6, online. Copy that, Rourke said, initiating launch. The hangar opened to a massive tunnel carved into the Martian rock. As Rourke fired the thrusters, the Phantom screamed forward, light bending around its hull, then burst into the black void. One by one, the others followed. Aegis Squadron had launched. The mission was simple, on paper. Intercept and investigate a Zarelian recon vessel spotted just outside Jupiter's orbit. But nothing about this war had ever been simple. As they approached the coordinates, the tension in the neural net grew. Enemy vessel detected. The AI reported. Class unknown, not matching any recorded Zarelian hull signatures. Visuals, Rourke ordered. The screen showed a long, dark mass, floating silently, with no lights, no heat, no visible weapons. What the hell is that? Saren muttered. Rourke frowned. Scan it. The scan came back. Wrong. It wasn't just Zarelian tech. It had human signatures buried in the energy spectrum. Run that again, Rourke said, now leaning forward. The AI repeated it. Still the same. There's Terran alloy embedded in its outer shell, said Phantom 4, and an energy pulse that matches old Earth stealth beacons. Wait, Saren whispered. Is that one of ours? Before anyone could respond, the object lit up, not with weapons, but with holographic data. A projection spilled into space, expanding like a flower of blue light. Dozens of symbols floated in the void, Zarelian runes mixed with human numerics. Then the message began. A voice, half human, half synthetic. If you're seeing this, it means I failed. My name was Commander Hallen Price, formerly of UES Harbinger. I was taken, broken, rewired. The voice shook, glitching every few seconds. The Zarelians, they aren't what we think. They don't conquer for expansion. They conquer to contain. Humanity, our kind, isn't evolving. We're becoming something they fear, something old, something they saw before. The light dimmed, the signal distorted. They're not invading Earth. They're trying to stop it from waking up. The thing beneath the Pacific Trench. We called it Project Worm. They call it Devourer. Then silence. Rourke sat frozen. Project Worm? Saren broke the tension. What the hell did he mean, wake up? I don't know, Rourke whispered, but we need to find out. Back at Aegis Station, chaos erupted. The message spread faster than command could contain it. Within hours, black site captains across the Sol system requested clarification. Old clearance levels were reactivated. The name Project Worm resurfaced from decommissioned archives. No one admitted it existed, but everyone knew it did. In a sealed chamber beneath the ocean floor, guarded by 10 layers of kinetic shielding and 3 orbital satellites, it waited. Not a weapon, not a base, a living thing. Something that had been there before humans were even born. And Earth had buried it. Admiral Chen appeared on the secure comm screen inside Rourke's debrief room. His face looked older, tired. "You weren't supposed to find that," he said. "But it's real, isn't it?" Rourke replied. Chen didn't deny it. "We discovered it in 2081, he said slowly. "A biomechanical structure embedded beneath the Pacific Plate. We thought it was dormant, but it wasn't. It pulses once every few decades, like it's breathing." "Why hide it?" "Because it changed people. Anyone who got near it, engineers, scientists, they started dreaming of shapes that don't exist, speaking languages that don't translate, and it didn't stop there." He leaned in. "The Zarelians knew. They've seen this before, on other worlds, dead worlds. So they kill off species before it activates? Yes. That's why they conquer, not for empire, but out of fear." Saren whispered, "Then they're not just enemies. They're terrified." Rourke's mind spun. All this time they'd thought humanity was the underdog, the stubborn insect beneath the boot. But what if humanity wasn't small? What if it was something cosmic, something unfinished? And what if finishing meant the end of everything? That night, Rourke sat in his private quarters aboard Aegis Station, staring at the blue glow of Earth in the distance. Not with awe, but with unease. If what Price said was true, then everything was backwards. The Zarelians weren't monsters. They were survivors. They'd seen what happened when something like Project Worm woke up. Rourke didn't know what it was, but it was beneath their feet. And it was breathing. The descent began in total silence. Aegis transport, Obsidian, drifted over the pitch-black waters of the Pacific Ocean, its cloaked frame invisible even to the satellites it passed. Aboard, Rourke stood with Saren and the rest of the Aegis team, all wearing full sub-pressure suits reinforced with neural interfaces and micro-shock insulation. Beneath them was the Pacific Trench, the deepest place on Earth. A place even light had abandoned. And far below, embedded in a fissure that shouldn't exist on any tectonic map, was the object known only to a few as Project Worm. "Reading full seal integrity," Saren said, checking her wrist console as the ship started submersion. "Pressure stabilizers at 100%. "Let's hope it stays that way," murmured Rourke. The Obsidian groaned as it pierced the water's surface. There was no fanfare, just a quiet splash, and then the vessel slid under like a dying shadow. It took hours to reach the right depth, past the lightless zones, past the remnants of forgotten submarines and extinct species no one ever studied, down into the crushing dark. "Approaching the trench perimeter," the pilot said finally. "We're entering the restricted ring." From the main viewport, Rourke saw it, first just a shimmer of movement, then a structured silhouette. A vast black arch, half buried in the ocean floor, 10 kilometers wide, shaped like a rib cage made of stone and metal and something else. Something that shouldn't have existed on Earth. "There it is," Saren whispered. "The worm." Inside the trench facility, codename Echo Black, the air smelled like filtered rot. It wasn't mold, not really, but something in the recycled oxygen system left a copper taste on Rourke's tongue. The air was dry, but felt used, like it had been through too many lungs, too many decades. Echo Black had been built in 2084 as a deep ocean research base. Now, most of it was offline. The lights flickered overhead. Halls were lined with corrosion and dust. And at the heart of it all was Vault Theta, a massive vault door sealed with 9 redundant fail-safe locks, buried at the lowest chamber of the base. "This is where they kept it," said Dr. Mira Thorne, the only civilian on the mission, and one of the last surviving scientists from the original Worm project. Her hair was wild and gray, her eyes constantly flicking over her shoulder. She hadn't been allowed above sea level in over 10 years. She pressed her hand to the biometric scanner, and the first lock disengaged with a long, slow hiss. "You understand," she said, not turning around, "that once we open this, nothing will ever be the same again." Rourke didn't answer. He didn't need to, because deep in his gut, he already knew. When Vault Theta opened, the temperature dropped. Inside was a massive cylindrical shaft that descended further into the trench rock, spiraling down like a drill. Along its walls were ancient markings, not etched but grown, like the stone itself had folded around the language. At the bottom was the worm, not a creature, not a machine, but a seed. It pulsed with faint green-blue light, perfectly smooth, floating just above a curved pedestal of fused rock. Around it, faint trails of energy hovered like dust in moonlight. "No one knows what it's made of," Mira whispered. "Our scans can't penetrate the shell. Radiation levels fluctuate but never breach safety levels. It doesn't respond to physical contact." "So how do we know it's alive?" Saren asked. Mira looked at her. "Because it dreams." She led them to the adjacent monitoring room. Old screens buzzed with broken feeds. One, however, still worked, showing a 3D model of brainwave patterns. "They're not ours," Mira said. "Not even human, but every few days it emits these waves. They resemble REM cycles. Sometimes the waves change frequencies as if responding to proximity." "Responding to what?" Rourke asked. "To us," she whispered. "To humans." Hours passed as the team scanned and studied the seed. The obsidian remained on standby above, tethered to Echo Black by a data umbilical. Rourke stood near the chamber, staring at the pulsing core. His neural link buzzed softly. Then something else happened. He felt a pull. Not physical. Not in the room. Inside his head. He blinked. For a split second, the world went black. And then he saw something else entirely. A world on fire. Not Earth. Somewhere else. Alien structures burning. Zerelians running. Not fighting. Fleeing. And from the sky descended something vast. Too vast to comprehend. A coiling shape made of both machine and biology, with hundreds of eyes. No face, just mouths. Mouths that whispered names. Human names. Rourke snapped back, gasping, hand on his chest. "Commander?" Saren called, catching him. "I saw something," he said. "What did you see?" "Something the Zerelians fear." He looked down at the seed. It pulsed again, slightly brighter this time. "It's not just dreaming," he whispered. "It's watching." Meanwhile, across the system, the Zerelian fleet stirred. High Warlord Kazith stood in the central chamber of the Ziggurath Prime, flanked by 10 elite mind scribes. A map of Earth's solar system shimmered before them. Red symbols blinked along the outer ring. A single white dot pulsed inside Earth's perimeter. "The seed is active," one scribe said. "The humans have breached the chamber." Kazith's mandibles clicked together slowly. "Then we strike now." "Their world will burn," said another. Kazith raised a claw. "Number not yet. We cannot let them bond with it. If the seed links to human neural architecture, if it chooses one of them—" He didn't finish the thought, because the only thing worse than the seed waking up was it choosing. The devourer wasn't a weapon. It was a gate. a gate to something behind reality. And once, long ago, the Zarelians had watched another species walk through that gate and never come back. Back in Vault Theta, Mira stared at Rourke as he recounted what he saw. "It's trying to communicate," she said. "It's never done that before." "Because it never had the right person," Saren replied, her gaze locked on Rourke. He frowned. "What do you mean?" "You linked with it, even if just for a moment. You saw its memory, its warning. No one else has." Mira was already scanning his vitals. "His brainwaves. Look at this. They match the outer layer of the seed's pulses. It's resonating with him." "So now what?" Rourke asked. "I'm some kind of messenger?" "No," Mira said. "You're something worse." She walked to the window, staring at the glowing core of the seed. "If it chooses you, if it opens, you won't be human anymore." That night, as the others slept in shifts, Rourke stayed in the observation chamber, watching the seed pulse slowly. Calm, almost peaceful. He placed his hand on the glass. "I'm not afraid of you," he muttered. As if in answer, the seed pulsed once more, then again, then faster. Lights flickered throughout the station, alarms triggered. An object was descending from orbit, a Zarelian stealth pod, small, fast, and designed to pierce ocean depths. Inside were 5 elite infiltrators, coming for the seed, coming for Rourke. Echo Black was never designed to be defended. It was built in secrecy, meant to observe, not to withstand a direct assault. And yet, as the alarms blared and red emergency lights flickered down the long, rusted corridors, the men and women stationed within felt the crushing weight of war pressing through the ocean above them. "Unidentified object breaching the trench wall," Saren called, her voice sharp over the comms. "ETA, 3 minutes." Rourke stood in the command center, one hand gripping the console, the other clenched tightly at his side. "Can we stop it?" "Negative," said the AI. "Object is heavily shielded. Fast. It's riding the current straight to the access shaft." He didn't need a full scan to know what it was. Zarelian infiltrators. They weren't soldiers. They were assassins, designed for a single purpose: eliminate threats to the greater galactic order. This time, that threat was him. Dr. Mira Thorne ran her fingers across the seed's chamber glass, watching its glow intensify. "It knows," she whispered. "It feels them coming." The seed pulsed rapidly now, the once slow, dreamy thrum now pounding like a second heartbeat. "It's afraid," she said. Saren looked up. "Of what?" "Of being destroyed," Mira replied, her voice trembling. "Of being silenced again." Then she turned to face Rourke as he entered the chamber. "You need to leave," she said. "I'm not leaving it." "This isn't about the seed anymore," she said, eyes wide. "This is about you. You're not the same as before." Rourke paused. He'd felt it too. The last time he touched the glass, it hadn't just shown him visions. It had stayed with him. There was a hum beneath his skin now, a silent thrum in the back of his skull, like a distant signal waiting for a reply. Saren stepped in behind him. "The enemy's going to breach in less than 2 minutes. Whatever you're planning to do, Rourke, do it fast." He stepped forward to the glass again. He didn't touch it this time. He spoke. "I don't know what you are," he said to the seed, "or why you're down here. But if you need me, then take what you need. Use me." Nothing happened at first. Then, everything changed. Inside Rourke's mind, reality shattered. He didn't fall. He didn't move. But suddenly he was elsewhere, floating in an impossible place, a vast void of light and shadow, geometries that twisted into each other, shapes that didn't obey any laws of space, stars that blinked like eyes, galaxies coiling around each other like serpents. and from the center of it all came a voice, not spoken, not even audible, just felt. You are the key, the final echo, the memory of what was and what may be again. Rourke tried to speak, but no words came. The voice, its presence, wrapped around him. You were never meant to be what you are. You are acceleration, catalyst, the shape that survives collapse. What are you? He finally managed to think. I am not the worm. I am what came before. I am what lies beyond your extinction. And in a flash, Rourke saw a glimpse of it. A race not human, not Zarelian, older than stars, a civilization that unlocked the core truth of existence, and in doing so broke reality. They opened the seed, and what emerged from it didn't just consume their world, it rewrote it. Rourke screamed, except he didn't have a mouth here, just thought, just feeling. The voice whispered once more. Now they fear you, because you are becoming what they failed to contain. And then, as fast as it came, it ended. He woke up gasping, kneeling in front of the seed, his body covered in sweat, eyes wide. Saren ran to him. Rourke, what the hell just happened? I saw it, he whispered. It's not just a weapon. It's a doorway, a memory, of a species that came before, something too big to control. Then he stood. And it chose me. The first breach hit Echo Black like a hammer. A section of the upper hull imploded, water screaming through twisted metal. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, but not fast enough to stop the Zarelians. 5 infiltrators, armored in black organic exosuits, crawled into the base like insects, their limbs bent in unnatural angles, their eyes glowed like molten stars. Seal the seed chamber, Saren shouted, raising her rifle. It won't hold them, Mira warned. Then we hold the line ourselves. Outside the main vault, Rourke stood shoulder to shoulder with Saren and the others. They were outgunned, outclassed, but not outwilled. Here they come, shouted one of the security officers. The hallway exploded into chaos. The Zarelians moved like bladed wind, fast, surgical. They cut down 2 guards before anyone fired a shot. The air filled with smoke and blood. Saren dropped to one knee, squeezing off 3 rounds that hit one of the infiltrators square in the chest. It stumbled, then fell, its armor hissing as it bled thick black fluid. Got one, she yelled. Another charged Rourke, its claws aimed at his neck. But before it could strike, Rourke caught it mid-air. Time slowed. He twisted, snapped its spine with one hand. Saren stared at him. What the hell? I don't know, Rourke muttered, breathing heavy. I just moved. The seed was still glowing behind the glass, still pulsing, still sharing. One by one, the infiltrators were cut down, but not before breaching 2 more corridors. The base shook violently as another section collapsed under the trench pressure. Water flooded the north labs. Emergency beacons blinked red. Dr. Mira ran into the seed chamber. It's stabilizing, she shouted. It's using him, Rourke, to focus its output. It's trying to lock on. To what? Saren asked. To the source. To whatever's out there, whatever it came from. Rourke stumbled, his head burned. He saw more flashes, a spiral of dead stars, a temple beneath ice, a voice whispering, "Complete the echo. Bring the gate home." Suddenly, the seed began to lift, not high, just a few inches. But it was enough. The pedestal beneath it cracked, revealing a swirling mass of light and black tendrils. A conduit, a biological relay of some kind. Oh my God, Mira breathed. It's not dormant. It's incubating. It's calling out. Rourke backed away. I don't think I can hold it, he said. And then the comms crackled. Commander, came a familiar voice. Admiral Chen. We've got incoming. Zarelian Armada just dropped out of fold space above Earth. 20 warships. They're coming to wipe us out." Saren's face paled. "This is it," she whispered. "They know." Chen continued. "They're not issuing ultimatums. They're not even jamming us. They've come to end the species. We've got maybe 6 hours." Rourke turned to the Seed. "Then I need to open the gate." 6 hours. That was all Earth had left. Above the atmosphere, the Zarelian Prime Armada hung like a funeral shroud. 20 ships, each one capable of glassing continents. There was no bluff, no transmission, no demand. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to erase a threat before it could evolve any further. Inside the fractured walls of Echo Black, 3 miles beneath the Pacific Trench, Commander Elias Rourke stared at the Seed, its glow now a full bloom of swirling green and black light. It no longer pulsed slowly. It vibrated like a heart pounding in a body ready to awaken. "Status?" he asked, voice low. Dr. Mira Thorne, her face pale under emergency lighting, looked up from her console. "The Seed has breached every sensor threshold. Its core temperature is rising, but it's not melting. It's changing." "Changing into what?" asked Saren Vale, her weapon still slung across her chest, eyes flicking between the chamber and the collapsed corridors behind them. Mira hesitated. "I don't think it's a weapon anymore. I think it's a bridge." "To what?" "To something not from here. Not from now." Rourke didn't ask how she knew. He already felt it in his bones, a pull, not toward the Seed, but through it. As if his consciousness was tethered to something waiting behind a thin veil, straining to step through. He hadn't slept since the link began, but he didn't need sleep anymore. He didn't feel hunger, didn't feel cold. The Seed had changed him. He wasn't sure if he was still entirely human. But he was sure of one thing. He was the only one who could open it. In orbit, Admiral Chen stood aboard the Ironclad 2, watching the Zarelian formation through the main screen. His hands were clasped tightly behind his back. His face held no emotion. "Any word from Rourke?" a lieutenant asked. "No," Chen replied. "Do we engage?" Chen looked at the tactical readout. Earth's remaining defenses were pitiful. Even after upgrades, Earth's orbital grid and fleet were like slingshots facing tanks. He said nothing for a long time. Then, "We hold. Until the end." Back in Echo Black, the tremors grew worse. The trench was beginning to collapse under its own seismic stress. Whether from the Seed's energy surge or the destruction above, the base wouldn't survive much longer. Saren gripped Rourke's shoulder. "We have to go. Now you can't do anything else here." "I have to," Rourke replied. His voice didn't sound like his own anymore. "It's not done with me," Mira, frantic, shouted. "If you open it without understanding, without the protocol, we don't know what will come through. You could destroy everything." He turned to her, eyes glowing faintly now, barely visible unless you looked closely. "You don't understand. It's not coming through. It's already here." And then, the Seed split open. No explosion, no shockwave, just a crack like splitting an egg, and inside, folded like an origami of flesh and code, was a shape. A small figure. Not alien, not machine. Human. A perfect replica of a man. Tall, black-haired, no older than Rourke, but with eyes that shimmered like galaxies. He stepped forward barefoot on the chamber floor, naked but not exposed. Saren raised her weapon instinctively. The figure raised a hand. "No harm," it said, in Rourke's exact voice. Rourke's mouth went dry. "Who? What are you?" The figure smiled faintly. "I am your completion, the part of you left behind by time." "Are you from the Seed?" "No," it replied. "I am the Seed, and I am you." The figure turned to Mira, then to Saren. "When your kind evolved," it continued, "you left echoes behind. Code, memory, possibility. I am the culmination of what you could become, if unshackled. The Zarelians feared me before they even met you. Why? Mira whispered. Because I am the moment their order ends. I am the chaos they cannot predict, and now I must choose. Choose what? Rourke asked, stepping forward. The figure faced him directly. Whether to evolve you or erase you. In space, the Zarelian fleet began to move. Weapons charged, their forward units positioned to strike. Earth's orbital warnings screamed across every city. Sirens blared, panic swept through the streets. But in that chaos, something new appeared. A signal. One single pulse, beamed from the trench up through layers of water, rock, and atmosphere. It was not human. It was not Zarelian. It was other. Every ship in orbit paused. Sensors scrambled. AI systems glitched. And then, one by one, Zarelian ships shut down. Not by attack. Not by hacking. They simply stopped moving, like they were frozen in time. Rourke stood before the figure. His hand trembled. What did you do? I made a decision, it replied. Your species is not ready, but you are on the path. Then, we're not dying? The figure turned to him one last time. You survived the test, but you must never seek to open the other gates. What gates? There are many, across stars, across time, and one by one they will call to you. Will we become like you? Rourke asked. The figure's smile vanished. Number, if you are lucky, you will remain human. Then it stepped backward into the seed, and in a sudden flash of white, both vanished. The seed collapsed into itself, shrinking, until nothing but dust remained. Silence returned. Echo Black collapsed 3 minutes later, but not before Rourke, Saren, and Mira made it back to the surface, extracted by an emergency stealth cruiser sent by Admiral Chen. They watched from orbit as the Zarelian fleet retreated, engines silent, lights dimmed. No shots fired, no lives taken. Not this time. 3 weeks later, the world tried to move on. News of the battle was suppressed. The Zarelians never officially returned. The skies were clear again. But whispers grew. People spoke of a signal that reached the edges of known space, a pulse, a call, and somewhere, far away, something heard it. Rourke stood alone on a quiet beach in South Africa, staring at the ocean that had once hidden humanity's darkest secret. Saren joined him, a cup of coffee in her hand. You okay? She asked. He didn't answer. Are you still you? She asked softly. He looked at her. I think so. But part of you is still connected. He nodded. Are we safe now? For now. She handed him the coffee. You'll let us know if that changes? Rourke smiled faintly. I won't have to, he said. You'll feel it. We all will. They stood in silence, the waves washing over the sand. And deep beneath the earth, the memory of the seed slept again. But it wouldn't sleep forever, because humanity wasn't finished. They had just begun.